Hey there, I'm back to continue my top 100 fantasy fiction reads of all time. This is part two of the list. Let's see what else I have to share today. Welcome to Fantasy for the Ages. I'm Jim, the father of this father son show where we talk about fantasy, science fiction, horror, and other nerdy things. I'm giving you my top 100 fantasy reads of all time here in a 5-part series. This is part two. So today I'm giving you 80 all the way up to 61. If you missed the last episode, go back and check what was at the bottom of the list, the ones that are just glad to still be there. I read almost 90 books this year, so a lot of these were fantastic and have bumped others off the list. How many of your favorite fiction reads of fantasy genre will be on today's list? Let's find out. We start with number 80, Malice. John Gwynn's first appearance on this list. Malice is the first book of the Faithful and the Fallen series, a 4-book series. This one was published in 2012 and is in the epic fantasy genre. This book introduces us to the Banished Lands, a world of prophecy, betrayal, and war. It's praised for its classic fantasy elements combined with intense action and character-driven storytelling. Gwynn's debut novel, and it won the 2013 David Gemmell Morningstar Award for Best Fantasy Debut. This prestigious recognition helped establish Gwynn as a significant new voice in the epic fantasy genre, and people are enjoying the stuff that keeps coming out from this guy. Number 79 is The White Dragon, Book 5 of Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern, published in 1978, being a sci-fi fantasy mashup. This chronicles Jaxum and Ruth, a unique undersized dragon, known for its heartfelt exploration of individuality and breaking of societal norms. This is the first science fiction novel to appear on the New York Times hardcover bestseller list, achieving this milestone back in 1978. This recognition was a major breakthrough for the genre, helping to elevate its status in mainstream literature. The fact that it's sci-fi that feels like fantasy may have had something to do with that. Number 78 is my first Wheel of Time sighting on the list, Crossroads of Twilight, Book 10 in the series. This is by Robert Jordan and was published in 2003 and is epic fantasy. This book focuses on fallout from major events with significant character introspection. It's actually often criticized for its slower pacing as compared to other books in the series, but is praised for its intricate world building. This is the first book of the Wheel of Time series to debut at number 1 on the New York Times hardcover fiction bestseller list without dropping from the spot for consecutive weeks. Number 77 is Beyond the Shadows, the final book of Brent Weeks' Night Angel trilogy. The other two are farther down the list. This was published in 2008 and is dark fantasy. It concludes the trilogy with epic battles and revelations about Kyler's destiny, known for its fast-paced action and moral dilemmas. The Night Angel trilogy catapulted Brent Weeks to prominence in the fantasy genre. Upon the trilogy's success, Weeks became one of the first fantasy authors to have all 3 books in a series released simultaneously as mass-market paperbacks, a unique and innovative strategy by Orbit Books to attract readers. It helped that he published all 3 of these in the same year. Number 76 is The Power That Preserves, Book 3 of the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, by Stephen R. Donaldson, published in 1979. This is epic fantasy. It concludes Thomas Covenant's first trilogy with the ultimate confrontation with Lord Fowl. This book explores themes of healing and personal growth. The series' success was notable for its departure from traditional fantasy norms, emphasizing psychological complexity and moral ambiguity. It was moving towards grimdark before such a thing was even thought of. Number 75 is Tagana by Guy Gavriel Kay, his only appearance on my list at this point. This was published in 1990 and is high fantasy. This is a standalone novel about the erasure of a nation's culture and identity. It's celebrated for its lyrical prose and poignant themes of memory and resistance. Guy Gavriel Kay drew from Italian Renaissance history and culture, particularly its city states, for the book's setting and political dynamics. It gives it a very genuine, authentic feel. And it's such a good book. Number 74, Dead House Gates, the first book from Stephen Erickson's Malazan Book of the Fallen on my list. This is book 2 in that 10-book series. It was published in 2000, and its genre is high fantasy. This follows the infamous Chain of Dogs and its harrowing march. It's brutal. It's known for its emotionally devastating narrative and its military focus. Something striking about this book, and different from other fantasy series, is as book 2, it took a total different setting and cast of characters from what you saw in the opening book, Gardens of the Moon. This deliberate shift was a bold narrative choice that challenged genre conventions and demonstrated Erickson's commitment to tell a sprawling, interconnected epic rather than one simple linear story. Some people struggle with this series because of it, but I'm telling you, it's worth the struggle. By the way, this wouldn't be the last time Erickson would come out with the next book and be on something totally different than anything you'd seen up to that point. Number 73, Orb, Scepter, Throne, book 4 of Novels of the Malazan Empire by Ian C. Esselmont. This came out in 2012 and is high fantasy. We return in this book to Darujistan and explore events following Toll the Hounds from the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. It features intrigue, ancient magic, and ties to the broader Malazan saga. Esselmont has shared in interviews that his collaboration with Stephen Erickson involved regular discussions to ensure continuity and coherence across the shared universe. These are 2 different series going on, but in the same realm and with lots of crossovers. So they worked very diligently to keep things on the same page. Number 72 is The Ill-Earth War, the second book of Stephen R. Donaldson's The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant the Unbeliever, published in 1977. Again, this is epic fantasy. We continue Thomas Covenant's reluctant battle against the evil Lord Fowl. This book highlights themes of self-doubt and redemption. This is one of the earliest fantasy novels to incorporate deeply flawed and morally ambiguous characters into the genre. For that reason, some people don't like it, but I just ate it up. Number 71 on my list is The Dark Tower, the final book of 7 of Stephen King's Dark Tower series. This was published in 2004 and is considered dark fantasy and Western. There's a strong Western theme into this series. This concludes Roland the Gunslinger, his journey to the Dark Tower. It has an ambiguous, controversial ending, which is beloved and hated at the same time. It's known for its exploration of fate and cyclical storytelling. Stephen King spent over 30 years on this entire 7-book series. He began the first one back in 1970, and here it ends in 2004. Number 70 is The Path of Daggers, 8th book in Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time. This was published in 1998 and is epic fantasy. This book focuses on the Dragon Reborn's use of the Shanshan-destroying weapon, Kalendor. It's known for its political maneuvering and the struggle for control over the One Power. It's the shortest book in the series by word count. Number 69 is Daughter of the Empire, book 5 in the Rift War saga by Raymond E. Feist and co-written with Janny Wirtz. It came out in 1987, and the genre is high fantasy. This book introduces Mara of the Akoma, a young noblewoman thrust into the deadly politics of the Serrani Empire. It's praised for its rich world building and strong protagonist. The Empire trilogy, of which this is book one, is among the first collaborative fantasy novels where both authors actively wrote and revised each other's sections, rather than working separately on different chapters or sections in a collaboration. This process allowed for a cohesive narrative voice throughout the book, blending Feist's talent for plotting with Wirt's skill for intricate character development. You don't read this going, oh, Feist wrote that, Wirtz wrote that. No, it just blends seamlessly. Number 68 is Servant of the Empire, the next book in that Empire trilogy by Feist and Wirtz. This one was published in 1990, again, high fantasy. It continues Mara's story as she navigates political intrigue and confronts betrayal. It's celebrated for its exploration of power and cultural dynamics. Much of the cultural inspiration for the Serrani world in the Empire trilogy comes from Feist's fascination with feudal Japan and Mesoamerican cultures and civilizations. Number 67 finishes the Empire trilogy with Mistress of the Empire. Again, written by Raymond E. Feist and Janny Wirtz. This one came out in 1992, and again is high fantasy. So we conclude the Empire trilogy with Mara's battle against political enemies. This book is renowned for its intricate politics and character development. Mistress of the Empire and this entire Empire trilogy was groundbreaking for its exploration of Eastern-inspired cultures in a genre traditionally dominated by Western medieval settings. It's been a long time still trying to break out of those tropes, but here we were back in the early 90s, late 80s, doing it. Way to go, Feist and Wirtz. This trilogy's success helped pave the way for greater diversity in fantasy world building. Number 66 is Wolves of the Kala, book 5 of Stephen King's Dark Tower series, published in 2003. Again, dark fantasy with a Western leaning. In this book, Roland and his quartet defend a small town from mysterious wolves. It's known for its blend of Western and fantasy elements and ties to King's broader multiverse. The Cosmere before there was a Cosmere. This is the first book in the Dark Tower series to be published after Stephen King's near-fatal car accident in 1999. Yeah, car versus human, and he was the human. The accident deeply impacted him, and the themes of mortality and perseverance become more pronounced in his writing afterward. Then we've got number 65, Blood and Bone, the 5th book in Ian C. Elsomant's Novels of the Malazan Empire. It was published in 2012 and is high fantasy. This book explores the continent of Jakaruku and the mystical jungle of Himatan. It's known for its dark atmosphere and ties to the broader Malazan world. Elsomant wrote Blood and Bone while balancing his academic career, as he holds a PhD in archaeology. His background in archaeology and anthropology greatly influenced his approach to world building, particularly in his detailed depiction of ancient ruins, cultural conflicts, and the interplay between magic and civilization in the Malazan series. It makes a lot of sense how good this book is when you know his real-life background. Number 64, A Crown of Swords. From The Wheel of Time, this is book 7. Robert Jordan wrote this one, publishing it in 1996. Again, epic fantasy. In this book, we're focusing on the Dragon Reborn's consolidation of power and encounters with the Shan Chen. This highlights the political and personal complexities of the series. This book was the first of the Wheel of Time series to have a prologue released as a standalone ebook prior to the novel's publication, part of a marketing strategy to build anticipation for the book. A relatively novel approach in the late 1990s. Number 63, The Last Argument of Kings, the 3rd book in the original First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, published in 2008. This is grimdark fantasy and concludes the original trilogy with shocking twists and brutal outcomes. This book is known for its commentary on power and human nature. The phrase, Ultima Ratio Regum, translated as The Last Argument of Kings, was engraved on French cannons during Louis XIV's reign. It symbolized the idea that warfare is the ultimate resolution of disputes. Not necessarily the best, though. Number 62 is Marita, Dragon Lady of Pern, Book 7 in the Dragon Riders of Pern series by Anne McCaffrey, published in 1983, genre being sci-fi fantasy. This is a prequel detailing the heroic efforts of Marita during a devastating plague. It's praised for its emotional depth and focus on sacrifice. The story of Marita is hinted at in early books in the series, and I love how this book helps us so much better understand the world as it is in the core sequence of the Dragon Riders of Pern. My final book to share with you today, number 61, is Gardens of the Moon, Book 1 of Malazan Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson, which came out in 1999. Genre, high fantasy. This book, of course, therefore, kicks off the sprawling Malazan series. It's got intrigue, war, gods meddling in mortal affairs. It's noted for its complex plot and steep learning curve. Part of what's so challenging about this book is you don't have any context yet, and you just get all this stuff thrown at you, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Interestingly, this book was initially written as a screenplay for television. Never came out on TV, but we're sure glad we have the book. That's where I'll leave you today. If you enjoyed this list, be sure to give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we hope you will. Hit that notification bell, and you'll see the other episodes come out as I keep working my way through this list. Got any comments on the books I've shared? Put them in the comment box. I'll be sure to respond. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.